Hey, what's up Exiles? Welcome back to another build guide. In today's video we have an all-time favorite, Impale Cyclone Slayer. This updated version of the build deals 30% more damage compared to the one from previous league. It also does not uses Starforge. Now before anything, let me first show you what this build can do.
Challenge. You finally caught my attention. What's the point?
Well, alright then, let's begin with the Ascendancy. We are a duelist ascended into a Slayer because we like to go fast. Therefore we start with Headsman all the way to Bane of Legends. Headsman gives us lots of added damage against unique enemies, and Bane of Legends gives us an upgraded Culling Strike. It basically deletes 20% of any target's health. Next we take both Leech Ascendancy nodes, starting with Endless Hunger. Since Cyclone was nerfed to no longer grant stun immunity while spinning, this node fixes that issue for us. It also gives us some leech based on our overkill damage. Finally, we have Brutal Fervor. This one is very simple. It gives us lots of damage while leeching, and it makes it so that leech is not removed at 100% life. This means permanent damage bonus and stun immunity all the time. So that was it for the Ascendancy. But what about the normal passive tree? It should be noted that we need to save at least 16 passive points for one large and two medium cluster jewel setups, each having the minimum possible amount of added passives. We will go over them later, but for now, here's what your passive tree should look like. Now with the passive tree out of the way, let's talk about your items, starting with the most important one, your weapon. For once, it's not a Starforge but rather an exquisite blade. You need one with at least 600 physical DPS total and some increased critical strike chance. You are looking for at least 7% base crit on the weapon or higher. Crafting hybrid quality and crit chance will do the trick. Now you can utilize the new harvest craft that turns an item into fractured with at least one synthesis modifier for a chance to hit a decent physical damage roll. That will make the rest of the crafting a lot easier. Now to put this into perspective, switching back to Starforge from this weapon lowers our damage. That also applies to the legacy version as well. The only thing you are missing out on is the life roll, which is not really important when everything dies in less than 1 second. And the lost area of effect isn't an issue because our next item is actually an astral plate with 3% explode mod on it. The explode mod is essential as it removes the need to scale area of effect for Cyclone itself. Thus you can hit a monster and the entire pack will explode without having to get close to them. For the rest of the mods on your chest, try to have life and additional base crit to attacks. The easiest way to get this combination is by using an Awakener's Orb and just craft life manually at the end. And if you can't afford to get something like this, then just get Carcass Jack and you will be fine. Anyway, moving on to your helm, we got Devoto's Devotion. I don't even need to explain why we need this one, as having increased movement speed on any item is literally the best thing to have on Cyclone. Now you can try to farm Lab for increased Cyclone attack speed enchantment. Alternatively, increased Blood Rage attack speed buff works just as well. For our next item, we have an Elder Amulet. On it you are looking for crit multi and increased area of effect, or life, in addition to 2 empty prefixes and 1 empty suffix. These empty spaces will be used to multi-mod into more area of effect prefix and -3 total mana cost of channeling skills. If you can't craft both, then the -3 mana cost takes priority. Now don't forget to use your oils to anoint Fatal Blade. It gives us a huge chunk of damage in the form of crit chance and crit multiplier. And that was it for your amulet. Moving on to your rings, we have 2 diamond rings because, again, crit chance is nice to have. On the first one we have attributes including a huge intelligence roll. This one is just enough to cover all of the build requirements for intelligence. And then we have strength. Strength is nice because it gives us increased melee physical damage and some life. It's one of those mods that we don't actually mind having on any of our items. We also have increased melee damage here. And finally, we got life and crafted -3 to total mana cost of channeling skills because it's mandatory. Now on our second ring, we have life, more strength, and Assassin's Mark curse on hit. Now vulnerability works just as fine if your critical strike chance is high enough. But finally, another -3 total mana cost of channeling skills craft. With it and the other 2 crafts, now we can use Cyclone without spending any mana for it. From here we move on to our belt. We have life, more strength, and increased attack speed during any flask effect. Now since our damage is so freaking high, all bosses basically dies before our flasks expires. Thus having a mod like this is perfect for the build. Finally, I crafted some resistances to complement the ones I'm missing. For boots, we have movement speed, life, and as many resistances as possible. Now you could potentially get a tailwind boots if you don't need that many resistances, but in my case, I simply couldn't compensate for that much resistances, so I couldn't switch to a different boots. For lab enchantment, you either get 2% life regen as a defensive option, or 15% increased attack and cast speed if you have killed recently. Finally, we have gloves. It's essential that you get at least 400 or more accuracy roll on your gloves. That's required to break the 3000 accuracy mark, which will give you more than 90% hit chance on enemies at higher level maps. Aside from that, you need life, attack speed, and maybe try and hit your gloves with Warlord Exalted Orb, hoping for increased melee damage mod. It is actually a very common one to find on gloves. And with that, we are basically done with items. Now we are going to talk about jewels, starting with the normal ones. Any jewel you use should have life on its prefixes. The other prefix should be either increased attack speed with swords, or increased melee critical strike multiplier with two-handed weapons. Now for the suffixes, you can have more crit modifiers in the form of increased melee crit chance or crit multiplier, or increased attack speed. Alternatively, you can get more elemental resistances if you still required some of them after equipping your items. But for cluster jewels, however, as a start you need one large one with 8 added passives. One of its added notables must be Deep Cuts. Deep Cuts gives us +1 to maximum Impale stacks, which results in a huge damage boost, especially because we are scaling Impale effectiveness in this build. In addition to Deep Cuts, you need 2 jewel sockets. Aside from these things, you can have Fuel the Fight, because we are always leeching, and any other damage notable if possible. So branching from the large cluster jewel, we have 2 medium ones with 4 added passives each. I'm using Area of Effect jewels because they can give us some very useful notables like Assert Dominance and Magnifier. Finally, we are not going to use smaller cluster jewels and fill the sockets we have with normal ones instead. That's generally a more efficient investment because you get to save few passive points for something else while keeping the jewel socket for yourself. Finally, Watcher's Eye. We have +2 Impale while using Pride. This is your best in slot option damage wise. Remember that we are scaling Impale effectiveness in this build up to almost 100% more effect. Alright then, what about gem links? Let's start with our main 6 link. We have Cyclone, Impale Support, Pulverize, Brutality, Infused Channeling, and finally Close Combat Support. Feel free to replace the last one with Awakened Melee Fizz if you manage to get one for yourself. Next we have a aura setup, starting with Pride, Precision, and Herald of Purity. All of those are linked with level 3 Enlighten. You might want to keep Precision as low level as possible just to match the extra amount of mana you have left after enabling the rest of your auras. Anyway, we have another 4 link setup that includes some additional auras. Here we have Blood and Sand, Dread Banner, level 20 cast when damage taken, and level 20 Steel Skin. Anyway, next we have another 6 link setup. Here we have a bunch of gems that require the blood magic, so I thought about combining them into one large link setup. We have Leap Slam, Blood Rage, Summon Lightning Golem, Faster Attacks, Fortify, and Blood Magic of course. With it we make it so that the entire build does not require mana to function. Thus any mana left is used to get some extra levels on Precision. Now yes, you could break the last setup into multiple smaller ones if you can't afford to have 2 6 link in your build. But with that being said, now we move on to Pantheons and Bandits. Starting with Pantheons. For Majors, we go with the Soul of Lunaris. It's generally a good choice for any build that needs some extra movement speed. For the Minors, we go with the Soul of Shakari for the poison immunity. Next for Bandits, we help Alira for the crit multi and elemental resistances. The mana regen will also come in handy while leveling. So that was it for this build guide. If you guys liked what you saw, then you know what to do. Maybe like, subscribe, show some love, and maybe consider hitting the comment section and tell me what you think about this build. If you have any questions or suggestions, then I do try to respond to all comments as quickly as I can. But for now, my name is Phoenix and I will see you all in the next video.